All right, welcome to the Creative Hunter podcast. I'm your host, Logan Romney, and this is episode 1, so I'm really excited to get this first episode out. It's been a little bit coming. I've had this idea in my head to start this podcast for a while, and we're going to do it. I've just decided that I'm in a position that I'm going to do it. I've been waiting on it for a long time, and I just need to get it done. So I kind of want to start with just like, why am I making a podcast, and why should I have a podcast? Really, the point of this podcast and the reason why it's called the Creative Hunter podcast is I love hunting. Hunting is like the thing I've been doing since I was a little kid. I've grown up doing it my whole life. It's my biggest passion. And when I got out of high school, I just wanted to hunt more. So I started guiding, and I found out about a guy named Stephen Drake. And he was a guy who went out and he took photos and got paid to do it. Photos of hunting and got paid to do it. And I was like, dude, that is like the dream. If I could do that, that'd be amazing. So I started doing some more research into it, and I took the course, the hunting photographer that Stephen Drake and Zach Bowden made, and met those guys and got to know them and kind of got into the ins and outs of how I could make this a reality. And that's what I started doing. And that was about 4 years ago. I started in the creative hunting space, and I started just building from there. Started with mostly photography and then moved into some filmmaking. And it's really just been a cool progression in myself, and I've met a ton of awesome people. I've really learned a ton. I learned how to network. I learned all the technical camera stuff, and now, right now, I'm in a position where I've been in the industry for 4 years. I've done some cool stuff. I know a lot of people, and I feel like it's time to kind of start sharing some of the information that I know with other people. That's one of the big goals of this podcast, is to teach others. And I think that's a big reason that most people have podcasts, is to share knowledge and to teach others and to learn for themselves. There was a post a couple of days ago on Easter that Trevor Farns and Mountain Ops posted, and Trevor said a quote from a guy named Rory Vaden, but the quote is, "You are always most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were." And when I heard that, I was like, dang, that's like such a good quote. And that kind of was what got me like, okay, I'm going to start making this podcast. It's also, I feel like it's going to be a pretty fun podcast for myself because it's things I'm passionate about. So I want to talk about the hunting, the hunting industry, different hunts that I've been on, and hunts that other people have been on, and some tips and tactics. I also want to talk about photography and videography and talk to people in the industry that do that full time and get knowledge about that, because I think that's there's not a lot of podcasts that are specifically oriented toward creatives and hunters. There's a couple. There's Outdoor Creatives. They have a pretty good podcast, a really awesome podcast I love listening to, where they interview a lot of creatives, and they themselves are creatives. And so you can go check them out if you want more content about that photography and video side of hunting. But there's a ton of hunting podcasts, right? There's all sorts of them that talk about hunting and gear and tips and tactics. And I'm passionate about that. So obviously I'm going to talk about that stuff. I'm going to do some videos and podcasts about hunting gear tactics. I'm going to do some pack dumps. And then I'm also going to, like I said, get into the creative side of things. We'll have some guests on, probably quite a bit is my plan. And as we go along, I'm going to get better at this. This is the first time I've ever done this. So it's going to be fun. But kind of another goal of mine, which is a little bit more of a personal goal, is as I have about a year and a half left of college, and I want to be in a position when I graduate college to just pretty much go full time as a content creator for hunting and for filming other people's hunts and having my own content on my YouTube, on Instagram, on podcasts. And this is just a step in that direction, getting my name out there and getting some recognition and some following, so that I can actually make a living off it once I graduate college, because I want to be in a position when I'm out of college to make a full-time career, support my wife and my family down the road, and do what I love, but also just be able to make money doing it, so I don't have to have other jobs that may not be exactly what I want to do in the future. Working 9-to-5 jobs is just not really what I want to do and not really my plan. So That's a big goal of mine, is getting out of college and having that career in an industry that I really love to be in. The other goal this is kind of the reason I didn't start the podcast sooner, is I've heard statistics. I'm not going to say them exactly, but I'll tell you what I think I remember them as, is like 90% of podcasts don't make it past 5 episodes. And then out of those 10%, like 90% don't even make it to 20 episodes. And so I'm making it a goal for myself to make it to 25 episodes, or finish this first year of podcasts by doing one every week. And that's a goal of mine, to build some discipline in my life. I feel like I'm a fairly disciplined person. I work out every day. I wake up at the same time every morning, and I run, and I do a lot of things fairly consistently in life, but I want to get better. And one of the reasons that it scared me to start a podcast and do this type of thing is because I don't know if I'll be consistent. And I'm kind of realizing as I'm starting this that, like, that's exactly why I need to do this, is because it is scary to start, but it's going to be a learning curve, and it's going to be something that can build discipline in myself. And I hope that there's definitely people in my life that will help hold me accountable, and I hope I can hold myself accountable, because I the way that I want to do things in life is to not do it half-heartedly. I want to go all in if I'm going to do something. And so starting this podcast means recording a podcast every week and posting it, and it's going to be a lot more work than it sounds, because there's all sorts of back-end editing. I mean, I've edited and done a lot of video and photo content in my life, so I know how it is. I know how it goes. You spend a week in the field filming something, and then you spend a couple months editing it, and it's just that's just the process, and that's what makes it fun. And so you got to kind of fall in love with that process. But doing this podcast, I think, is just going to help really build some discipline within myself. And it makes me really excited to do this, because there's a lot of people, and I have tons of ideas on podcasts that I want to make, and to teach other people, or to teach you guys, and really just to learn from myself as well from other people. I want to get into a couple of cool things coming up. So last year we did a bear hunt in the middle of Idaho. We went in a long ways and backpacked in there, and it was me and 4 of my buddies. We had Brody Barry, we had Ty Barry, who's Brody's cousin, Raden Lindley, and Kincaid Smeltzer was there filming for me. And we went in there. We all had bear tags. This was the first week of May of last year. And myself, and Kincaid were filming this whole hunt. And I had 2 bear tags. And then all the other guys had bear tags. Kincaid was just there to film. And we've done this. We'd done this hunt a couple years in the past. And so last year, like, I was super stoked, because it was the first year that I actually had a bear tag going into it. The other years I just filmed it. And we had a sponsor for the film, Mountain Archery. Mountain Archery is a really awesome company. They're local here in Rexburg, Idaho, where I live. They sell everything from archery equipment, bows, rifles, ammunition, all the gear that you need. They have a ton of, like, clothing. They carry Stone Glacier. They carry Sitka. They have Mystery Ranch packs. They have everything that you need. They have a website online too, so you can go check them out on there. They always have some deals going on like Sitka gear and all sorts of stuff. But if you're in the Rexburg local area, you can also check them out too. You can go shoot your bow there. If you're looking for a new bow, they have all the bows you can try out. Any rifles you want, or handguns, they've got everything there. And Brody, who is on the bear hunt with us, he works there. He's kind of the manager of the whole pro shop. And so I worked out with them a little sponsorship deal where they help sponsor the film and just kind of pay for Kincaid to come out and kind of for our travel to get there. And it wasn't a lot, but we were just able to kind of help the trip, and help us film it and get some content for them and for us. And so we went out and we filmed it. Part 1 of the bear hunt is actually already released on YouTube, and part 2 will be released actually the day before this podcast goes live. So if you haven't watched those videos, you got to go watch them now, because I'm going to kind of go into some of the stuff that happened during that hunt. So we got in there, and the first couple of days, the first day we were looking for bears, and we got up on a glassing knob. And I think it was day 2 that we were in there. We were glassing, and Kincaid, the cameraman, he spotted a bear about 1,000 yards away on a ridge, and it was sitting there was me, Raiden, Kincaid, and Ty, and I was like, well, like Kincaid didn't have a bear tag, so I was like who wants to go after this bear? And Ty and Raiden were both like, well, you brought Kincaid, he's your camera guy, like go for it, you got it. So I was like, okay, let's do it. So it was about 1,100 yards where this bear was, and I wasn't comfortable taking that long of a shot, but there was a few finger ridges in between us and the bear. He was kind of on the same canyon side as us. He was just a few finger ridges down. So I decided let's hop over a couple of these finger ridges and see how close we can get to him before we take a shot. Because I mean, I know I can take a long shot, but if I can get it under 400 yards, I'm going to every time. So we hustled over. Ty stayed on the glassing knob just to kind of watch and see, and watch that bear, see where he went. And myself, Raiden, and Kincaid, we went along these couple finger ridges. We got to one, it was like 600 yards. I was like, well, I think we can get to the next one, and if we get to the next one, it'll be about 250 yards. And this bear was really content. He was just feeding on this grassy hill. It was like afternoon time, so it wasn't in the morning, it was in the afternoon. But we got to the next finger ridge and we located the bear. We kind of had to move to get around some trees, because there was a couple trees in our way, which kind of helped us because just because of the visual, so the bear wouldn't see us. But we kind of stayed on the back side of the ridge when we were moving. And we moved down, we popped over the hill, and the bear was just there. He was just still feeding. And so I got set up. It was 250 yards, like really just a chip shot. I didn't even dial my gun. I just got up, I laid down. He was right there. And I waited for him to come out from behind a tree that he was behind. Raiden was filming on the phone scope, which I probably shot a little bit soon because he wasn't quite ready on it, but we still got a little bit of video of it. And then Kincaid was filming on the camera, filming me and Raiden. And as soon as that bear stepped out, I shot, and the bear just rolled down to the bottom of that little canyon. And it was perfect. Like, it was day 2, and we just smoked a really nice bear. We were like so excited. So we went over, got the bear, packed him out. That night, really rough Packout, actually. It was some rock chutes with like boulders that were probably like the size of, maybe like between like a softball and a watermelon, right? Like pretty much the worst size rocks to walk through, because they roll easy, but then they don't just slide. So it's not like little shale where you can just slide on it, but it's not like big rocks where you just bounce from rock to rock. They'll roll, and you can roll an ankle. So we're being careful hiking back with our packs full, but it wasn't terribly far. I think it was only probably 2 miles, if that, back to camp. And we had 4 of us to pack it out. Ty came over and helped us cut it up, pack it out. So packed that one out pretty easy. We got back, and then the next few days that we hunted, we went up a couple like drainages that we'd never been up before, because the river that we usually cross to get up higher, up the main canyon, was so high that it was like totally unsafe to cross. Like we were crossing it, and like if you were to fall in, if you didn't take your pack off and swim to shore in time, within like 150 yards downriver, there was like log jams, and like you were not gonna make it. So we were being careful. We crossed the river once, and we got to the next crossing, and it was way too high to cross. So we just decided, okay, it's not worth it. We're not gonna try to get across this, because it's a big risk for us. So we backed out and went up a couple different drainages that we thought might be pretty good. And we found actually a lot of bears. We got up on to this one that we'd never been to, and like literally within the first 5 minutes, I spotted a little tiny cinnamon bear, just like probably 3-year-old bear, like really small, and he was just like rolling in the snow and digging up like deer bones and stuff. It was kind of fun to watch him. And then we spotted a nice bear. This bear, he was like gray in the face. He a jet black bear, but his face was gray, just really cool looking bear. And we saw him that night, or that the day after I killed my bear. We saw him, but he was way too far away. He was around 1,000, and there wasn't any knobs to get closer to him, and he was like just laying under a tree. And he got up and walked over the backside of the ridge so we couldn't see him. It's not in the film, but we kind of like scurried over there to see if we could peek over and see him, but we never did. We never saw him again that day, so we just backed out that night. And Raiden, when you watch the part 2, Raiden actually shot at a bear on the day after that I killed my bear. But it was a bummer. He had his turret dialed before he came on the hunt. He shot at like 1,000 yards, and his turret was dialed a full revolution off because he didn't reset it back to 0 after he shot at 1,000 yards. So when he got to this bear, and I don't remember how far it was. It was probably about 600 yards when he shot across this canyon. He was a full revolution off when he dialed to 600. So he was really dialed to like 1,400 yards or whatever. I don't whatever the math is. And so he missed the bear, totally missed, and he didn't realize till after that bear he missed a few times that his turret was all the way off. Big bummer, because he probably would have smoked that bear. But it's how it is. It's one of those things that you got to learn, is to reset your turret after you shoot a long ways. And then so after that day, Raiden missed the bear. We found that big black bear with a gray face. We decided, let's go try to kill this big black bear. Let's go back to the spot. So all of us, all 5 of us, we went up to this drainage where we saw this other bear. And first thing in the morning, we spotted him, and he was I think he was 650 yards. We got up. Raiden was up to shoot, and he dialed and he shot a few times and he missed. And I don't know if his gun was off, or I feel like Raiden just wasn't quite super steady. I'm gonna do a podcast with Raiden next week, so we're gonna actually talk to him about this, kind of see what his thoughts were. But he missed a few times, and it was a bummer because we were all pretty stoked to get another bear down. But he missed, I think, 3 or 4 times on this bear, and eventually the bear just ran off over the hill. So we figured, well, he went over the other side, so let's get across the other side of the canyon and glass into there and see if he pops out again. So we went over there and sat there, and he came out once for a second, but he like was moving quick. He might have smelled us or seen us and just went over the other side of the hill. So the next couple of days we hunted, and at this point I was just leaving my rifle back at camp because I didn't really. I was like, well, like there's 4 of us here. There's 3 other guys that haven't killed a bear, so I'm like, I don't need to kill another bear. So I was just letting everyone else have their chances of bears, which like was 100% fine. That's like, I thought that was good. There was no reason that I should take my gun. The only thing is I had a wolf tag, but I figured if we saw a wolf and I had a chance at it, I might just use someone else's gun or something. So I wasn't packing my gun. I was just focused on filming and capturing that hunt. And we got down, definitely just watch the film and watch a couple of those days. We got down to the last day of the hunt, and we decided to go check a couple drainages further that we hadn't been to ever. And I thought, I'm going to bring my rifle just in case we see like a wolf or something out there. And we got up, we checked some of those drainages that morning into the afternoon, just didn't see much. And we went back to the glassing knob that we were on the very first day when I killed my bear. And we were up there for a few minutes, and sure enough, we spotted a bear. And by this point, before we went up to this glassing knob, it was like the last day. I'm like, you know what? I'm really tired. My feet hurt. We've been hiking all this trip. And Raiden was like, dude, let's go up on this glassy knob. And I was like, okay, let's do it. Like, what do we got to lose? It's just up this little hill, and we'll sit there for the afternoon. I doubt we'll see anything. We get up there, we spot this bear, and where we spot it was probably 2 miles up the canyon further. And it's amazing, actually, when there's that much, when you're so tired, but then you find a bear, how much motivation you have to just keep going. I refueled on some electrolytes and some food, and we were like, hey, let's go after this bear. It's the last night. What do we have to lose? Like, we can get back to our camp tonight, and we could sleep in tomorrow, right? It's not a big deal. We started working over to this bear, and we were across the canyon from it, and we got to about the closest we were going to get, and it was around 800 yards when we got there. Raiden had 3 bullets left in his gun, and I forgot to mention, this morning of this day, we shot Raiden's and my gun at some rocks at like 1,000 yards in a canyon we didn't see any bears in, and dead on. Like, both of us were dead on. We laid down, we were shooting. It was perfect. So we knew Raiden's gun was on, and we got to this bear. We were about 800 yards from it, and Raiden had his three bullets. So he sets up with his tripod, and he shot his 3 bullets at this bear, and he missed all 3 of them. They were kind of just bouncing around. The first one was right of the bear. The second one was like right between the feet of the bear, like really close. And then the last one was just right over the bear. And man, I felt bad, but at the same time, like, I had one more bear tag left, and Raiden's like, look, man, I'm out of bullets, so if you want to shoot it, like, go for it. At this point, I think it was about 800 yards, and I set up, and I laid down. We had this log, and I laid down, and I felt pretty good. I dialed my gun and everything, and there was no wind. So I dry fired, so just didn't have a bullet in, and just pulled the trigger slowly and just click. And I just felt super steady. So I was like, hey, I'm gonna send it. And so I loaded it in and shot, and I just dropped this bear. And it was way across the canyon. I dropped it. Raiden was watching through the spotting scope. Pretty stoked, right? Like, we got a bear, but at the same time, it was a little bit of a sobering moment because Raiden wasn't able to get one. He'd missed 3 bears on this trip, and it was tough. And I'm excited to see kind of what he says about it on next week's podcast, because putting this film out is pretty vulnerable for him, and I actually really look up to him for that. So we went across the canyon to go get this bear, and by this time it was dark. By the time we got down to the bottom and we're working up the other side, it was pitch black. And we got up where we thought the bear was, and obviously we did all of our things. Like, we took pictures of the hillside and marked where that bear was at, and we looked on our maps on Onyx and marked, like, okay, I think he's like in this draw right here. The hillside was fairly flat, but there was some little draws that these bears would move through. And so we looked on our maps and we're like, okay, I think he's in this draw right here. So we got over there and we looked for about an hour and we couldn't find anything. And it was like, well, either like I actually missed this bear or something. And I decided, okay, as I sat down for a second, just like reevaluate, I looked at the pictures. And it was dark, so I'm like looking at the trees around me, like what trees look like what? Was there logs or dead trees? And I kind of was like, you know what? I think we're in the wrong draw. And so I think we're about like 100 yards off in the wrong draw. So we went over the other side, and literally within like 5 minutes, I looked down and piled up under a tree is this bear, and I was like, oh, okay, finally, like, we found it. And we would have been looking way longer if we didn't have maps and pictures to go off of. Like, it's just all about that, like, knowing, okay, when we get over there, it's going to look totally different. Like, it was a good reminder just to, like, really make sure that we take those pictures and mark on our Onyx, on our maps, where that we think that bear is at before we get over there. So we found it, we packed it out last night of the trip, got back, and then packed out the next day. And like probably one of the funnest hunts of my life. Not just because we killed like 2 bears, but just because like we saw so many animals. That's this spring bear hunting is just like the coolest thing. It's my favorite. It's one of my favorite hunts of the year besides like mule deer. But moving into this year now, I'm actually leaving in about 2 weeks almost, on the same bear hunt. We're going the last week of April this year, a little earlier. I'm going with my buddy Jamin Davis. None of the other guys that have come in the past are able to make it this year, so I invited Jamin Davis to come out. He's going to film it. We'll have a podcast with him after the hunt. But I'm really stoked. I've got a good game plan, I think, going into this area. What drainages I'm going to hit first, see if we can cross that river that was really high last year. I'm not sure how high it's going to be, and I don't even know if we really need to cross it, because we found some other areas that actually hold a lot of bears too. So we're going to go in there. We have some sponsors already lined up, and we're kind of working on some others. Some of the sponsors for this hunt, we have Wilderness Athlete, so supplements, and they have some Packout bars we're going to use. They have their Hydrate and Recover, the Energy and Focus, and then those hero packets that they have. You just add water to them. It's already a little packet with some powder in. You add some water, shake it up, and they're actually like really good. I've really been impressed with them, and their flavors and the ingredients and the products that they have. Super stoked to use that. They also have a product I am excited to use called Unplug, and it's just a capsule with pills, and you take one before bed, and it's supposed to help you sleep. And I don't have a terrible time sleeping in the backcountry, but I'm excited to kind of see if this does help, because occasionally I'll have like a rough night or two in a 6-7 day hunt. So I'm going to try this and see if it helps me get some more sleep, because sleep's important, but we'll see how that goes. Another sponsor is Hardside Hydration. For those of you watching on YouTube, they partnered with Yeti, and they're making these Yeti bottles now. It's the same system. So basically what it is Hardside. I'm going to show you because I have one hanging up right here. So Hardside Hydration, they make these Nalgene kits with a hose so that you can actually drink out of your Nalgene through a hose. It basically replaces a water bladder. So there's a special cap that goes on, and then a tube that goes into the bottle, and then you have your hose that comes out of the top of the bottle, and onto your shoulder strap with a mouthpiece. So you have the bottle in the back of your backpack, and then the hose comes over your shoulder, just like a water bladder hose would. But instead of having a bladder inside your pack that could get popped and leak, you have an actual Nalgene, hard plastic Nalgene bottle. And I first met these guys 2 years ago, I think. Yeah, 2 years ago at the Western Hunt Expo. And I started taking some pictures for them and sending them over. And now we're working on a lot of things together. They just help out with projects and kind of just help me get on a lot of hunts and help pay for some things. And I get them some images and some product photos and some lifestyle stuff. And it's a good relationship. They're really awesome. I'd eventually want to have them on the podcast too, just as like a little gear podcast with them. We are also working with a couple other companies, not as main sponsors, but as we're just getting some content. So some of the things I'm excited for this year is Grakksaw Ridge. They're sending us some game bags and some boot dryers. Most of the time where I bear hunt, we don't get super wet, but we do get some rain every once in a while, and there's some creeks and some rivers to cross. And so I'm excited to use those boot dryers and to really try those out, because that's the worst thing, is having wet boots. So if you haven't heard of them, Grakksaw Ridge, Grakksaw, Grakksaw, they make some really awesome products over there. Game bags that are super light and compact, super small, and those boot dryers. So stoked for those. Hawk Optics, they sent me this. They're not sponsoring anything. They sent me some optics. So they sent me a rifle scope. They also sent me a couple little spotters, and they sent me these range finding binos that I'm really stoked to try out this year. So far, they've worked really good. I can range as far as I need to with them. I think as far as I've gotten is like 1,400 yards, maybe a little more. And excited to try these out. These are going to be the main binos I'm running for this bear hunt. I also have the Asiac bino clamp on here, which gives you on the bottom of it, it's got it's molded so that it's the same size as the Arca Swiss mount. So my tripod, I just stick that on there. There's no like extra plates or posts sticking out of the binos. I just mount that on my tripod right there, and I can glass off it, and it's super sleek. And it'll just go right in my bino harness. That doesn't really make any difference at all. So stoked for that. I have their rifle scope on my rifle right now, and I've been shooting my rifle a couple times a week. Shoots really good. I've shot out to 1,000, and my elevation's great. Sometimes it's windy, so I haven't really had a solid day to really dial in that far. I'm not going to shoot anything that far, so it doesn't make a huge difference, but been running that Hawk scope, and so far that's pretty much most of the new gear I'm running this year. We're running some Seek Outside tents. I love the Seek Outside. Right now I'm planning on running my EXO pack, my K4 5000. I ran that pack since they came out with it last year, and I love it. For the rifle, I'm shooting a Christensen Arms 7 PRC. That thing is really awesome. It's the Ridgeline FFT, so it's like full carbon stock, carbon barrel. It's super light, and some people have issues shooting a light gun. I love it. So just for packability and everything. So I've got that. That's the rifle I'm shooting. Any other gear I'm using? Not really. Oh, we're also Muley Maniacs is sending us a couple tripods to just try out on the hunt. They're not expecting any images or content or stuff from that. I think we're gonna do a couple review videos for them of the tripod. So stoked to see how those tripods do. I've been running some just an old cheaper tripod for the last few years, but I actually really like it, and I've done some modifications to it, so it works really good for me, and it's been great. For spotter, I'm gonna take the Swarovski spotter. It's hard to beat it. The Swarovski ATX, the 65 mil objective. So it fits pretty good in my pack, and it's really awesome. I have the MagView phone scope adapter on there, so the MagView. So on my phone, I just have this metal plate on the back, and it just magnets right on the mount. Super easy. So I film all my long range shots, all of the animal footage, all of the kill shots is done through my spotting scope, just because of the lightweight, and I already have a spotter with me, so I might as well use it for filming too. And then Jamin and I will both have bear tags. We're also probably going to have a wolf tag. And we'll just see kind of how the season goes. I'm excited to get out there and just get on a hunt finally. I'm pretty antsy to get out there. I haven't been on a hunt in a few months now, since probably November. So I'm sure a lot of us are just ready to go. And I'm excited. I might do kind of a podcast on all of the gear I'm taking on the hunt and kind of just go through it all with my backpack and everything. We'll see if I have time to do that before the hunt comes up, but for sure, eventually I want to kind of do a pack dive and go through some of that stuff. So anyways, I think that's a wrap for this podcast. Thanks for listening. This is my first one. They're going to get better. I promise. I'm sure that there's a few things I can work on already. So if you have any feedback, leave some feedback. Thanks. We'll see you guys next time, hopefully next week. And till then, get out there, get hunting, go work out, just get in shape, and we'll see you then.